What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to another Division 2 video. If you happen to be new to the channel or you're just enjoying the content, then be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button and reach up there, trigger the bell, and turn on post notifications so that way you never miss a live stream or a video that is uploaded. Also, check out the links in the description below. Tons and tons of great links. Be sure to click them on. And also, if you want to be a supporter of the Guerrilla Nation and become an exclusive member, then you can hit that join membership button and you'll be privy to exclusive videos that are only privy to our members, as well as loyalty badges, custom emojis, shout outs, and the list goes on and on. So check that out if you're interested in doing that. But let's hop into this video. Now we're going to start off with the bare bones basics on how to increase your overall output, your damage output I should say, when it comes to whatever build that you're actually using. Now there's some out there that would like to, I guess, more or less try to say that RNG plays no role whatsoever and when it comes to increasing your base damage. Well, that is true and false both in the same statement. Because as you'll see, I have a 497 P416 at 27.1k. So, according to those content creators, a 500 gear score should be even higher. Well, that's not the case. Not always, anyways. As you can see, this is a 500 gear score custom P416, just as this is a custom P416, but 600 damage less. And then I have another just plain military P416 that is a 500 gear score that is 26.5, the same as the custom. Now there are some weapon types, I would say there's majority of all weapons, there are certain ones that have the potential of having higher base damage than other, such as the custom over the military, the black market over like the military and things of that nature. But there are some exceptions, and you can't always go by what a spreadsheet says because, you know, the RNG does literally completely suck, blow, horrible, all those adjectives, you know, comparing and more or less describing the RNG of this game. So basically, you just have to farm for whatever type weapon that you want and keep hoping that you're going to, you know, get an increased damage weapon to actually drop for you. So let's say you're just doing your normal farming routes, doing your regular missions, and let's say you're looking for, in this case, since we are on a custom P416, that is actually what you're looking for, just one with higher base damage. Well, be sure to have on an assault rifle build, so that way when one does fall for you, you can just pick it up and compare to what the P416 is doing currently, the one that you're actually using, and compare that to the one that actually fell for you. Because none of your damage is actually changing build-wise, so if you use that weapon with the build that you're actually using, then that's going to tell you exactly what it's going to hit for if you're using with that build. Now there are things as far as talent-wise that can increase that base damage, but we're just talking about pure base damage here and how to, you know, increase that base damage. So keep that in mind. But RNG does play a factor. Now, the other simplest way to increase your base damage is just using whatever brand set that particular archetype weapon is geared to, such as Petrov, Overlord, Fenris, things of that nature, and it's kind of like a no-brainer because it states it right there. One piece gives you 10% assault rifle damage for Fenris Group AB. One piece Petrov gives you 10% to LMGs. One piece Overlord gives you 10% rifle damage. So that's more or less a no-brainer. So as long as you have that one piece of whatever archetype weapon that you're actually using, then you're going to get that 10% increase. The second basic is whatever specialist you have equipped at the time, then make sure that particular weapon type that you have increased that damage for that particular weapon. In this case, 15% increased rifle damage. So just for having that one piece, in this case Fenris, and then your archetype weapon upgraded in your specialist tree, you get that 25% right off the get-go. Now the other way to increase base damage when it comes to gear sets is like the 3-piece Providence, or in this case the 3-piece Yaw gear. For having all 3 pieces gives you that 5% weapon damage. Now on top of that, when it comes to gloves, as you see on the screen in this one, there's the devastating talent. Devastating gives you plus 5% weapon damage, and that's all across the board. That is all weapon damage. And then of course you have your archetype weapon damage on your gloves, backpack, and chest piece. And on these gloves, 11% assault rifle damage. So you have assault rifle damage, and then you have all weapon damage. Devastating falls in the all weapon damage, and if it doesn't specifically state what damage it's giving it to, such as assault rifles, LMGs, then it's considered all weapon damage. Now, the holsters. Holsters can have devastating on them as well, but I have found, especially as you see on the screen here, devastating on your holster, 5%. But if you utilize a Heliguard holster, and if you're able to in that particular build that you're using, it comes with 2 offensive mod slots. So I'm trading in 5% devastating to get 13% weapon damage to my AR. Both mods have 5% assault rifle damage, so that's 10% right there, so that's already 5% more. But then I get an additional 3% combined all weapon damage. So I'm getting a considerable increase of at least 8% weapon damage just by utilizing a Heliguard holster. Now, this is where it's going to get a little tricky, and RNG is really going to, I guess, make a fool out of you, pester you, make you just want to throw your controller, especially when it comes to actually finding good, viable pieces that you can actually utilize these things. But as far as your chest and backpack, now, a good example is like this backpack that I had to find here. Of course, the base armor and health aren't really that great, but this is a PvE build. But I was able to find one that had an offensive mod slot and a defensive mod slot, and it did take me quite a bit to try to find one. Now, there are other Heliguards, such as this one, that'll come with a utility and a defensive mod slot, which is great if you're going with a more like a hybrid or a skill build type thing, because it has the utility mod slot, or you just need a utility to unlock, let's say, the likes of Spotter. But if you just want something for pure damage and PvE wise, then as you can see, the name of this particular backpack is called the Salvage Big Horn Pack. Now, the name of this backpack that has the offensive mod slot is called the Gila Inventory System. So there's tons of spreadsheets out there that'll actually have this particular wording on it that'll differentiate between, even though they're both Heliguard backpacks, as you can see, they both have different names. So that's also one thing to check out and look out for. Now, they can come with like the likes of utility and a defensive, but as you can see, that name more or less changes slightly. It's just the regular Bighorn pack compared to the salvaged Bighorn pack. So you can familiarize yourself, look up these spreadsheets on Reddit. They're on tons of other videos, and also the Ubisoft, they can give you these spreadsheets, and you can pick it up and just look at the name, and that might be something that you're looking for. So if you're looking for something and you don't need extra utilities, so find you, and if you're able to, use a Heliguard backpack, so that way you'll have another offensive mod slot. Now, when it comes to gloves, if you're not using like a 3-piece like I am when it comes to yaw gear, then there are Alp Summit gloves out there to where you can get the, like this for instance, assault rifle damage, devastating, and it also will have an offensive mod slot. So if you're able to do something like this and actually find an Alps piece that it'll have either an offensive or a defensive. If you want damage, then go for an offensive mod slot. And if you have a good mod, like I do, 6.5%, that's even more weapon damage you can add on top of that. So just in these 2 pieces alone with 2 offensive mod slots, then you're going to up it up at least 13% weapon damage just from mods, just as you did and how I did on this holster by having 2 offensive mod slots. The same goes for the chest piece, such as for this particular yaw gear, it'll have a defensive and an offensive. Now, there are some Heliguard out there that'll have utility 2 defensive, and then there are some that'll actually have 2 defensive and an offensive, such as this one, defensive, offensive, and another defensive. The name for this one is the Armadillo Vest. The name for the other that just has utility into defensive is the Iguana. So these names do come in handy, and if you familiarize yourself with them, then you can pick things up much faster and already know kind of what to expect, especially if you're just looking for decent pieces that have particular mod slots that you're looking for, in this case, offensive mod slots. And also, since we're on the topic of the Fenris, since we're using ARs, then you can get a Fenris chest piece that'll have the 2 attributes and it'll have a defensive mod slot, or you'll get some that'll have an offensive mod slot. And I prefer the ones that actually have the offensive mod slot, because that gives me another outlet to where I can increase my damage even further. So just for instance, this particular build here, that's 2, 3, 4 offensive mod slots right there. So I have 6.5% on each one. You do the math. That's almost 28% weapon damage additional onto what I already have. So you count the mod slots, then you count the 5% devastating, and then the weapon damage that you have on your backpack, gloves, and knee pads, and you can kind of see how you can stack it up. Now, if you want, let's say, the likes of, different brand sets like a Petrov. Petrov, I haven't had really great luck with. Petrov, you can get a chest piece, holster, or backpack. And same way with Fenris, if you can get a good, such as like a chest piece, then you can have still a Heliogard holster, then you can still have a Heliogard backpack, and then an Alp Summit glove, so that way you still get the mod slots that fall short for the Petrov chest piece, for instance. But that is basically the way to increase weapon damage. It's just a matter of finding the right pieces and ones that have offensive mod slots. And there's different ways that you can get around certain pieces and increase weapon damage without too much of a headache. It's just you need to get a hold of the spreadsheets and find out what brand sets pieces actually fall for each individual one. Like Heliogard is the only brand set that you can have actually a piece of Heliogard at every single slot. So you can have a 6-piece Heliogard if you want to. Most will only be 3 pieces, and then there's some with actually just 4. So knowing where you can put one here and there and what's available to you is half the battle and will save you tons of headache. But just find ones that have offensive mod slots, so that way you can increase damage, and where you don't have an offensive mod slot, such as on the Yaw gear, at least get you something that has devastating on it to further your weapon damage. Now, it used to be you go devastating on gloves, devastating on holster, but the better method is actually finding a Heliogard holster that has the 2 offensive mod slots, and you're still going to either have 2 blues or a blue and yellow, or you can even have a blue and red. The sky's the limit. But that's basically it. Don't be fooled by others. RNG does play a role when it comes to finding weapons that have higher base damage. But like I said, as long as you're farming with whatever build that you're using, if you're looking for that particular weapon, then whatever you come across, that's the weapon damage and output is actually going to be when actually you put it on your build. Now, if it has the measured talent on it, for instance, that is a tricky one that some people do not know, that usually it's like when you're just looking at it before you pick it up, it's considering that weapon as empty, as there's no rounds in the chamber. It's just an empty clip before you actually, pick it up. And situations like that, it'll be on, you can just look at by the RPM when it comes to the measured talent. If it's on the higher up RPM, that's over more than what the normal base of that particular weapon is, then 9 times out of 10, it's going to have a lot lower base damage because you have a lot higher RPM just because of measured talent. If it's a lower RPM than what it typically normally is, and there's no, Allegro on it, then that's typically going to show you higher base damage than what it actually is, but lower RPM. So also keep that in mind. Same thing, sometimes this game is a little finicky also with like Optimist and things of that nature, to where if it's empty and the talent is related to, the lower you go in rounds in the magazine, the more damage your output is. Also, if you're just looking at it before you pick it up, sometimes 9 times out of 10, it'll actually show it the most weapon damage you can get out of that particular weapon, because it's registering as there's no bullets in it. So if the talent is actually procced, and you don't really know it, then it actually, kind of can confuse you too. So just pick it up, and you can also go to the crafting table, and it'll actually give you a range. You can craft certain weapons. It'll actually tell you how high, up, or low. So it's like if you craft one, and it tells you you're at 90% of its potential, and you have one that's still higher than that one, then you know the one that you currently have before that you crafted one is basically probably 95 to 100% of its maximal potential. Now, if you craft one that's only like 50-50, then you can kind of just craft one to use it as a base when you can just go look at it, you know, without having to pick it up and examine it at first. Just by, you know, that little rule of thumb, you can kind of use it as a measuring guide. So if you're looking for LMG, you can just go craft a LMG, and that'll kind of give you a ballpark figure. Not exact, but it kind of will give you a way to kind of judge here or there on whether to pick it up or, you know, really fool with it or not. But I hope this has helped you out. If it has, let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate each and every one of you. We're almost at 10K subs. I am humbled by it. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys fudging later. I'm stuck in a box. I'm a man in a box. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Hello? 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 Ah!